Hey everybody, here's another trade recap on EURCAD. Basically a continuation to the previous trades that I shared in my other EURCAD video. Uh, Basically framing on the same idea of this impulsive break of the ascending channel. I'm just going to jump straight into the 1 hour and just kind of dig into these overall setups here. So basically what I'm seeing here is just kind of this corrective nature. It's really the 15-minute that all these trades are taken on. Definitely taking a lot of notice on the 15-minute as things kind of begin to come more clear to me. But so the first trade, what I was looking at here was this initial high was kept in mind. Started to notice that price had this overall ascending channel. And what's interesting is the clear impulse correction, impulse retracement that we've seen within this ascending channel. We got the 1, 2, third touch here. So basically all these factors in the high test candle. I decided to take an entry. Ended up taking it on this candle here as opposed to this one. Just gave me a little bit more additional confluence. Mostly just a late entry on my part. So if I go into bar replay now, I can just kind of show you how I manage this. It was a little bit more active in terms of the management, but I had this initial impulse and then this second one. So essentially what I decided to do right off the bat was basically lock in about, it was about a 0.5% profits. Just because it was a very clear impulsive candle. We're starting to get to this kind of outer trend line here, so we could see a rise back up or a break, so definitely all eyes on that. We did get an impulsive break, so everything was looking good there. So I decided now that we've broken impulsively, let's just secure a little bit more profits. Really just factored in just a little bit over 1% since at that point price was sitting, I'd say roughly 2.5%. So just keeping the trade enough room to breathe, but yeah, so it was kind of at this point starting to see this rejection here on the downside, and especially it's tapping into the 90% rule. So then this is ultimately where I did set my target profits, just shy of that. So it was kind of at this point I decided I am going to very much so reduce my risk, put a really tight stop loss on here just because we're getting this overall kind of descending nature here. Obviously we're working off the 15 minutes, so we could see a decent pullback before any sort of continuation to the downside. So keeping all that in mind, was kind of here, just kind of noticing here, ultimately was taken out of the trade, hitting target profits. So overall management was pretty good. Not a lot to really take into consideration. It was really just kind of noticing this area and just kind of factoring in a little bit more aggressive stop management just to make sure that I maximized on that move. That was a quick 4.3% trade. And it just goes to show you the power the 15-minute chart can really have on your trading. So as you'll notice, price began essentially having corrective behavior here. Initially, I was kind of seeing this as impulse correction impulse and was curious what it was going to do at this high, and also keeping in mind that we could be putting in a flag or pennant type continuation pattern. So kind of noticing that, that was definitely the big thing I was watching here. And it was kind of at this point I started to notice, okay, I think overall we're starting to get what I would call this little scooping formation, really corrective. So something's kind of changing from the initial idea. So I kind of decided, you know what, I'm going to put an alert here, and I decided to set an order here because ultimately I was looking for downside under this kind of this setting here, looking for the risk entry up here, but was totally fine with a reduced risk entry there. Factored this kind of low in here into my entry. And what you see tagged into the trade there quite impulsively. So we have a pretty impulsive break of this pattern. So everything was kind of going as I was expecting here. Starting to notice a little bit of smaller momentum candles, but not overly a huge deal. This was at 8 o'clock at night, so during the Asian session, it was kind of hesitation on my end in terms of being involved with any pairs that are across of Euro or Canadian. They don't tend to move during Asian session quite as much, but this was definitely a lesson for me in terms of limiting beliefs. These patterns complete, you're going to start to see to see momentum regardless. So it was kind of in and around here. We hit the 1%, decided to move stop loss to break even. And as price just kind of kept continuing to the downside, we hit 2% there. I decided just lock in mechanically 1% here, just keeping in mind that, we kind of had these smaller corrective candles here followed by impulses. So just kind of using these as reference points while also kind of factoring in this overall just even round profit figures here. And it was in and around right here that I seen this retrace candle. Definitely was not a fan of that. So decided going to limit my risk exposure overall. And it was ultimately around here I put my stop loss. Price began kind of moving down, but this candle kind of gave me a little bit of insight. We had some rejection to the downside, kind of this test into the double bottom, starting to kind of put in descending structure. So that's kind of the factor of that tight stop loss there. And as you see, rate was right there. I got tagged out for about it was about 2.7%. So overall, really happy with the way that trade panned out. I think from a management perspective, especially in hindsight, seeing that we were starting to get this more corrective move. Overall, I was able to capitalize on the majority of the move, so definitely happy with that. So we'll just kind of keep moving down. Started to see this, so was looking for potential for more upside. Just clear these out of the way. Okay. And essentially just kind of watching it, really nothing panning out at this point. But it was at this stage that I noticed essentially this double top right here. Nice high test candle, so that I definitely like that initially. Then price broke, so that kind of ruined that trade idea for me. But still kind of keeping everything in mind, liking kind of the way this setup was forming and the overall bearish momentum that we were just seeing consistently here. What I started to notice here as we got this retrace candle, we basically had 1, 2, 3, almost a fourth touch. So that definitely gave me a decent insight as to what was happening. We got this nice impulsive move followed by a retrace of that move. Nice 50% plus retracement. Kind of keeping that in mind, this expanding pattern that we're seeing here can often be viewed as a continuation pattern. So kind of factoring in all those things, I decided to take that sell entry. Price impulsed to the downside pretty much immediately after entering the trade, which was nice. We got this impulsive retrace candle. Definitely got me a little concerned here, just because it retraced these last two candles. Started to see this high test, and this candle retraced that. So we're kind of getting this evening star kind of candle formation. It was kind of here we started to see this impulsive move to the downside. So I kind of use that as a good way to lock in some profit. So I locked in about 0.1% as my break-even points, and just seeing this overall heavy momentum move to the downside. And I wanted to lock in a little bit more profits. I decided 1% was great. We hit 2%. Noticed this kind of little tiny correction here, so I figured that was a great spot to again maximize what I'd capitalize on. And then started to notice price was moving in this overall bear flag. Decided not to take this as a scale in, but I was definitely considering it. It was in and around here I decided again to limit my risk exposure, put the stop loss just above the high of this correction, and basically would be factoring in if I was taking this as a scale in, my stop loss probably would have been in and around here, so managing it as if I was taking that scaled in position. And as you can see, price just kind of trickled there, started to put in some more impulsive movements. We got this retrace candle here. I decided to lock in 3% just because we were about at 4%. This was kind of an overall consolidation area, so I was happy with kind of setting that area. Anticipating a further push to the downside, but what you kind of start seeing is prices just consolidating. This is around almost 11 p.m. So just kind of gearing up for London session, and ultimately got tagged out of this trade for 3%. So I hope this was valuable, and thanks for watching.